China is an agricultural juggernaut. Its farms produce a quarter of the world's corn, a third of the world's fruit, and half the world's pork. No matter what you eat, at least one ingredient could have come from China. But what if these ingredients were not what you assumed?
当时去医院检查，他说可能要再多喝一点，身体差一点的人，可能要不就是胃穿孔啊，就是肠道受不了什么，就应该是到那种状况了。
And what if you were not just poisoning yourself, but poisoning your children as well? Mrs. Cho is mother to a 5-year-old boy. When he was less than a year old, he was stricken with a mysterious illness.
当时看的最多的就是从7月份的时候，他尿就是不是带的尿不湿嘛，尿不湿上有好多红色的那个小结晶，然后我还说这孩子怎么会尿出这样的尿，然后。
Then, in September 2008, officials announced that 14 babies from Gansu province had fallen ill with kidney problems. They all had one thing in common. They drank the Sanlu brand of powdered milk, the same brand of milk that Mrs. Cho had been feeding her son. It was a case of tainted milk that would eventually lead to over 50,000 hospitalizations. A month before the scandal broke, tests already showed that Sanlu's milk powder was tainted, but the product stayed on the shelves. Sanlu even allegedly bribed Baidu, China's #1 search engine, to bury the negative news. Only when Fonterra, a New Zealand company with a 43% stake in Sanlu, alerted Beijing in mid-September, was the case blown wide open. Parents like Mrs. Cho realized they had been unknowingly poisoning their children with tainted Sanlu milk.
他是从不到3个月的时候开始吃Sanlu奶粉，然后一直到08年的9月份，吃了大概不到1年的时间，然后我们当时去查就是有结石。
On December 31st, 2008, 4 Sanlu executives went on trial for producing and selling tainted milk. Tian Wenhua, general manager of Sanlu, pleaded guilty. She received a life sentence. Deputy General Manager Wang Yuliang, who had previously attempted suicide by leaping off a building, was sentenced to 15 years in jail. But that wasn't the end of the matter. Police were about to discover a network that threatened the entire country's milk supply and its exports across the world. The raw milk used to produce milk powder is sourced from dairy farmers. To ensure quality, companies like Sanlu only purchase milk that contains a high enough level of protein. But there wasn't enough such milk on the market. With the price of animal feed rising, farmers were feeding their cows low-quality feed. The cows, in turn, produced milk with insufficient protein content. Somewhere between the farmers and the companies, someone had falsified the protein levels by adding the chemical melamine.
那些黑心的造假者将三聚氰胺掺入奶粉中，掺入这个牛奶中，它是为了依照原来的这种蛋白质检测方法，如果是 掺入了三聚氰胺，会使这个蛋白质的检测含量能够这个数据略高一些。但是说是谁也没有想到，没有类比到国内的这些不法的这些生产者、经营者，竟然把这个放到鲜奶中，最终是让了这个很容易受伤的婴幼儿来食用。
Melamine is a chemical used in the manufacture of plastics, floor tiles, and whiteboards. When ingested, it can cause kidney stones, kidney failure, and even death. Sanlu's milk contained more than 2,500 times the acceptable amount. Investigations led police to the middlemen who bought milk from farmers, added melamine, then sold it to the big buyers at a higher price. Several middlemen were arrested. One, Gang Jinping, was sentenced to death for selling milk containing melamine. And Zhang Yujun, who had sold melamine to middlemen, was also sentenced to death. Tests eventually found 70 contaminated products from 20 different companies. At least 25 countries quickly banned Chinese dairy products. In China, victims were promised compensation, but even legal action did not always work.
但更多起案件是因为存在的立案难，法院就是有的是不接收这样的诉讼材料，有的是接收了诉讼材料，表示说是要所谓的研究，但是这个一研究下去就不了了之了，没有任何结局了，就是立案难。立案难之，好不容易我们立上了案件，10起案件立上案件，但是最终只有1起案件开了庭。
Mrs. Cho's son drank Sanlu's tainted milk for nearly a year and still suffers the effects of melamine poisoning.
慢慢的积累下来的话，会造成结石，甚至是肾积水等等的一些不良的这种后果。而且现在看来，这个造成的损害有一些是难以治愈的，恐怕是只有一些轻微的、毒害较少的这种伤害，可能是会有痊愈。但是恐怕是过了一定的毒害的量，对人体的伤害是不可逆转的，会是长期而持久的。
Mrs. Cho still brings her son for regular checkups as doctors continue to monitor her son's damaged kidneys.
它就像一个炸弹，就悬在脑袋上，不知道什么时候爆。
Since the melamine milk scandal, China has taken steps to improve the quality of its milk. But could the problem have gone beyond just one product? Could it have extended to the very heart of the health authorities themselves? China has seen several incidents of cunningly forged food, including rat masquerading as mutton, pork, and paraffin sold as beef, and urine-soaked duck posing as lamb.
也就是说，中国现在的这个食品产业已经与这个就是假冒伪劣啊、非法添加了，变成了如影随形的一个产业，找不到一张干净的餐桌了，除了特供食品之外啊。我们说，从喝的水到吃的药，无一不被假冒伪劣所侵蚀。
With vendors greedy for sales and buyers hungry for a bargain, the country's regulators have to carefully check what's being sold. But what if the regulators themselves are in on the act? In 1998, China created the State Food and Drug Administration to regulate food and drug safety. The agency investigated food scandals and approved the sale of new drugs. For 8 years, the agency was run by Cheng Xiaoyu. But in 2005, he quietly stepped down. Rumor had it that he was under investigation for corruption.
那么郑小瑜在任的短期间批准了那么多新药，这些新药都是怎么来的呢？而且呢，你花了那么多钱，做了那么多临床试验，最终批还是不批，就是由这位大爷一个人说了算的。在这个时候，你要知道这个药品的研发和投入是巨额的投入。
During his time as the head of China's Food and Drug Administration, Cheng accepted $850,000 worth of gifts from drug companies. In turn, he ordered the approvals of over 150,000 new medicines, over 100 times more than America's Food and Drug Administration.
那如果在最终这个具有审查的生杀予夺的大权的这个郑先生这里你通不过，那么你这个药厂你前期投入的数以百万、千万计的，甚至是美金计的这种投入就化作流水了。那么在这种情况下，人们这些药品生产企业愿意花重金来在他这里疏通关系，给他一些好处，打点通关。
Some medicines turned out to be unsafe. with one antibiotic resulting in 14 deaths and hundreds of serious illnesses. China's leadership, keen to show its determination in improving food and drug safety, sentenced Chang to death in 2007. China has seen numerous food scandals. Some involve passing a cheap ingredient off as a more expensive one. Others involve using chemicals to make a sub-quality ingredient look more appealing. But there is another type of scandal that sounds so incredible, many people believe that it's nothing more than an urban legend, creating fake food from scratch out of a mixture of artificial ingredients. For years, Chinese media has reported the existence of fake eggs, some manufacturers producing as many as 1,500 per day. Sold on the street, each egg is offered for about 6 cents cheaper than the real deal. It is said that sellers can make $70 a day, double the country's average wage. Several have dismissed these claims as a hoax. But there is at least one person who believes he has been conned by fake eggs and lived to tell the tale.
我第一次吃到假鸡蛋，确切时间不太好说，应该是在98年我进大学的时候，一直到2000年，我基本上每天的早餐呢都会在那个一家面馆里面吃，然后每一餐都会要煎1到2个鸡蛋。
After 2 years of his regular breakfast, Huang Hui began to get frequent stomach aches. Unable to bear the pain, he visited a doctor.
2000年的时候，我到医院检查，发现我有比较小的那种胆结石。后来医生就给我分析，他说你平常都吃一些什么东西？
Upon studying Huang's food habits, the doctor narrowed it down to the eggs.
后来我上网查了一些资料，然后发现，在网上就有很多流行说这种，是一些假鸡蛋的，它它的一些成分是什么，它能引起一些什么危害。
Reportedly, a fake egg can be made in less than 5 minutes. The main ingredient of both the white and the yolk is sodium alginate, a thickening agent used in the production of syrup. Yolks are formed by adding yellow food coloring, then dropping the mixture into calcium chloride. A transparent casing forms, holding the fake yolk liquid in a ball. A coating of calcium carbonate, which is actually the main component of real eggshells, completes the illusion. Using a mold to form the shape, you have a synthetic egg, without a chicken in sight.
跟另外2个同学一起到他那里去，拿了他几个鸡蛋，再到菜市场买了一些鸡蛋做一些对比，然后发现呢，确实有些明显的不同。
Real eggshells have a layer of membrane on the interior, but fake eggshells do not. Fake eggs have a chemical odor. Crack the eggs open and a real egg will have distinctly separated yolk and white. In a fake egg, the yolk and white mix together.
平常吃起来，你如果不去注意的话，口感相差不会太大。但是如果你留意的，然后仔细去分辨的话，它那些假鸡蛋还是有一些那个口感啊，还有这些味道方面是有一些差别的。它口感吃起来有点胶质的味道。
With his health seriously jeopardized, Huang had to undergo surgery to have the gallstone removed. He also filed a complaint with the Food and Drug Administration to shut the shop down. Poisonous milk, fake eggs, dangerous food whose cheap pricing attracts unsuspecting buyers. But paying more is no guarantee of safety. Buying expensive luxury products can just mean a larger profit margin for food forgers and an equally high cost to health. China is now one of the world's biggest wine consumers, consuming over 1.5 billion bottles of wine per year. It's the imported wines, especially from France, that are seen as prestigious. In 2012 alone, China imported over 250 million liters of wine from the European Union, nearly $1 billion worth. Wine counterfeiters are looking for a slice of that pie. Lynn used to work in the fake wine industry as a salesperson.
大概4、5年前的样子开始进入这个行业的。主要是做批发，像在湖南地区的话，那个洋酒这一块销售的假酒比较多，就是一般在娱乐行业，像酒吧啊，夜总会啊。
Salespeople target people like Wang, the owner of a small pub in Beijing. On many occasions, he's been offered fake wines by suppliers, which come with the temptation of a high profit margin.
但是他有一些这样的人呢，专门来推销这样的酒。我们是前几年也有人来问过，他还告诉你几个级别，说这个酒呢不是特别的假，那个酒是非常假，价钱还不一样，就假的程度还不一样。
一般都是就是卖家主动跟我们联系的，像他们具体就是怎么操作的话，我们也不方便过多的去问他们。利润还挺可观的，大概是100%到200%的样子。
Part of what can make fake wine so convincing is the genuine packaging it comes in.
主要是瓶子这一块，因为做假的话，一般就是在那个玻璃瓶啊上面做假，外面的那个纸的包装，基本上都可以做的。然后酒店也有，夜总会也有，娱乐场所也会有。因为他们像娱乐场所的话，他们到就是客人走了之后，那个瓶子很多都会刻意留在那儿，有人专门来收购的。基本上都是通过服务员，私底下通过服务员让服务员去收瓶子，而且就是要保证那个瓶子没有受损，受损之后就基本上不能用了。
Get the right empty bottle, refill it with cheap wine, and you can make a quick counterfeit buck. Chateau Lafite has become the poster child for wine forgery. A bottle of Lafite from 1982, considered one of the greatest vintages of the 20th century, can cost more than $10,000. Aficionados say there are more cases of 1982 Lafite in China than were actually produced by the French chateau itself that year. Clearly, something doesn't add up.
那么这种概念传到国内以后呢，大家都觉得，喝拉菲的人好像是整个身份啊，整个消费层次啦，都是不一样的，所以就可能带起一种虚荣和奢侈之风吧，可能这样子。
Chang Honghai has been in the wine business for more than 20 years. He started importing and selling wine in China in 2005.
但是因为它的有品牌在，大家都很欢迎，所以反映的一个城市，可能大家都喜欢那种比较有历史底蕴，或者说能体现一点价值感的一个品牌，所以在国内呢，这个东西是卖得非常好。
The Chinese wine market is considered young and full of inexperienced drinkers. That, coupled with Chinese fondness for expensive labels, makes it easier for wine forgers to ply their trade.
对于白酒来讲的话，比较资深的饮酒人士，就是说有些年头了喝酒的，而且经常品尝不同酒类的这种人呢，可能对白酒呢，它有一定的鉴别能力。但是大众的人，就是大众的普通消费层呢，对是真酒还是假酒，他们是存在很多不清楚的地方的。
A consumer who pays top dollar for cheap wine in an expensive bottle can count himself lucky. Sometimes what's in the bottle isn't even wine at all.
假酒是工业勾兑呢，一般是用工业酒精，区别在于它甲醇的含量。甲醇的含量如果超标了以后，我们就说它不适宜用来饮用，它要工业用途，比如医用或者怎么样子。
Excessive methanol intake can lead to insomnia, blindness, and even death. Bob is a social drinker of wine and spirits. After a night out with friends drinking wine, he found himself in the hospital with a damaged throat membrane.
当时去医院检查，他说可能要再多喝一点，身体差一点的人，可能要不就是胃穿孔啊，就是肠道受不了什么，就应该是到那种状况了。因为他怕一个什么呢？就是你当时的黏膜已经是破掉的，就会有那个破起来就起来的那个边缘嘛，他就是怕那个水把那个东西带下去。
elite winemakers are fighting back by smashing or buying back empty bottles. Unethical manufacturers, ingenious conmen, and corruption at the top of the health and safety watchdog. China has declared food safety a national priority. But with 200 million farms, 450,000 food processing companies, and fewer than one food inspector to every 10,000 people, it seems the potential profits from food scamming are still more enticing than the odds of getting caught.